Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Star Wars Lads. It's the first one we've done in a couple weeks, but it's episode number 58, and we are going to be running down everything that's coming out that we know of right now in 2022 for Star Wars. But before we get started, please hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel for Star Wars content 3 days a week. But with Boba Fett, we are releasing up to 5 videos a week, a predictions and speculation video, and a review of the recent episode. So you guys are going to want to check out all this content on Star Wars Lads. So you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed so you know when all these videos come out. And then comment below, let us know which Star Wars projects from 2022 you're most excited for, because there's a lot coming out and it's looking like it's going to be maybe the best year ever for Star Wars, or at least the year that has the most content in the widest variety of categories. So we're going to dive in right now, starting with what everybody is probably most excited for, the Disney Plus series. So we're going to go down by category. We're going to do Disney Plus series, books, comics, video games, and theme park stuff. So starting with Disney Plus series, we have 4 confirmed shows that are coming out this year. We have the Book of Boba Fett, which will be out from last Wednesday, which just had the first episode. Like I said, we did a review and a predictions and speculation for episode 2 if you want to check those out. And that will end on February 9th. So that will be lasting the next month and a half. So Book of Boba Fett will be then. We also have Obi-Wan Kenobi, which has been rumored to come out May the 4th. We don't know yet, but it is currently rumored to be the next Star Wars series. Then the Bad Batch Season 2, which I would guess would come out in the summer, like Bad Batch Season 1. Then Cassian Andor. And the rumor is that The Mandalorian Season 3 will kind of start / end the year, kind of like Boba Fett did. Maybe the first episode will come out at the end of 2022, and it'll basically be a 2023 show. Or maybe it'll just be a 2023 show. Disney hasn't confirmed that this show is coming out this year yet, because the rest of these shows were all on their 2022 Disney Plus preview. This one, it was not. Mandalorian Season 3 was not. But if I had to guess, I think they're going to want Star Wars to be back in that kind of winter time, same time we are right now, timeline, because it's worked so well for Mandalorian in the past. I think they're going to want to line that up. So, yeah, so we've got these 4, possibly 5 shows coming out this coming year. Sanak, which one are you most excited for, and what are your thoughts on all these things?
Yeah, I mean, I still will say Book of Boba Fett is the most exciting thing for me because I think this is the show that kind of ties in all these different materials that have been kind of loosely touching on Boba Fett. Like we've had Clone Wars arcs with him at slightly different ages. We've had the War of the Bounty Hunters. Like he's been growing into presence, and there have been rumors for him with having his own movie and stuff for so long. Like the whole Josh Trank stuff was supposed to be a Boba Fett film, and then apparently he just went on like a whole cocaine binge and destroyed a house, and just they canceled it and said that he was sick or some crazy thing happened with him. I don't know if that what I said is necessarily accurate, but I know it was messy, and that definitely pushed back Boba Fett from like the name that he could have been. Um, and then we've gotten the luck of having John Favreau and Filoni be involved with this after their great work on The Mandalorian. So it's still most exciting for me. And this is a new direction for this character that's never been like hinted at or in the direction. It's always been like he's either a bounty hunter or he's doing stuff with like his family or he's doing stuff as the Mandalore. And while that could still happen, this crime lord stuff actually makes the most logical sense for him because he doesn't really have Mandalorian ties like his father did. There's Mandalorians that say that his father's not a Mandalorian. Like I've liked what they've done in the Mandalorian season 2 with him, and like having the other Mandalorians just straight up disrespecting because he's a clone. And I'm very curious to see what they're gonna do with him in this crime lord stuff. I don't think it's his final stop per se. I could see this crime lord stuff eventually result in a clan of Mandalorians that kind of follow his father's created the whole Jango Fett creed as like a really big thing to his character. So I could see something like this. But if we're talking about strictly 2023, it's got to be Kenobi, man. It's so hype. It's so hype that we're seeing Ewan McGregor after so many years. And there's a lot of memes going on like, oh, when you're so excited that Ewan McGregor is gonna be Kenobi, and then the next panel is like when you realize this is probably the last time you'll ever see Obi-Wan Kenobi on the screen. And I'm like, yes, but the last time we thought we'd ever see him again was in episode 3, and now he's back. So this is just I'm grateful for it. I'm excited that not only is Ewan back, but Hayden's back. So I'd love to see them with like hopefully genuinely good writing and directing and some more modern graphics to really support, like the transitional era between the prequels and the original trilogy. I think Jedi Fallen Order kind of gets there, but it is mostly already feeling like it's Imperial. I don't think that Imperial feeling of the galaxy, of the troops and everything, is necessarily uniform across the galaxy as much as the Empire would like. So I'd like to see how a Tatooine Kenobi is, how a Kenobi on a different planet is, what interactions we're going to have, what this Vader encounter is going to be like, because Vader's encounter with Ahsoka was very like piercing. When you see his eye and all that, that was amazing. So I'd love to see what they really do here, what they really justify taking Kenobi off planet for. I hope it's like a very solid story that even if it is big, it has a purpose to it. Um, I will say though, I am actually quite excited for Andor, because it feels so disconnected in a way that it could do some stuff with Rebels and with Rogue One, maybe some stuff with tail ends with Jedi Fallen Order if we're talking Saw Gerrera and stuff. But as a whole, we already know how Cassian dies. He dies a hero for the rebellion, choosing to, believe in something instead of just being a killing machine. And it'd be interesting to see how this rebellion that is so idealistic in the original trilogy, even if it is obviously a lot more darker and filled out in like modern shows and stuff, how this cell that we mostly follow in the original trilogy, how is it shaped by the actions of other cells and characters like Cassian? It's less about Cassian himself in the show that I'm interested in, but more what Bail Organa doing. What is Mon Mothma doing at this point? Is Saw already in and out with his partisans? Who are other factions that we haven't really touched on? Maybe we see some stuff with Terrace and like the whole senator who's in Rogue One. Maybe she could come back. She's had a pretty big role in Dune. It'd be pretty interesting. So yeah, I think those two would be my biggest for next year. But for now, Book of Boba Fett has my full attention.
Yeah, I'm with you on all that. I think these shows are amongst last year or 2020 when they announced all those shows that were coming out. These 4/5 are amongst probably the ones I'm most excited for out of that entire slate. Ahsoka's up there, the Acolyte's up there, but I think I'm really excited for Andor, and I think especially because of the creative team behind it. And I'm excited for the style it's going to be. I think it's going to be really different. Rogue One has a very different tone than so many of the other Star Wars projects we've ever seen. That I'm excited for that more serious tone, that spy type tone. I can't wait to see what they do with it, just as a unique Star Wars project. And so even though I don't think it's going to give us too many crazy like canon reveals or too many like big, huge, exciting things to see on screen, I think it's going to be a really exciting show and a really fun show and something we're going to really look forward to every week. Yeah, the Bad Batch season 2, when the Bad Batch came out, as I said on Monday with our top 10 or top 5 things from 2021, I was excited for Bad Batch. Didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. It was really good, and I think season 2 will set the stage for how this show is going to be, and maybe if we are going to get any other spin-offs in the animated timeline kind of here. I want to see how broad they go with season 2, because season 1 still stayed compact enough to be like the clone center problems, with like only focusing on what's going on with them and how they are put a part of the galaxy after the Clone Wars and what happens to them. And so I want to see if this show expands or maybe leaves some room for other shows to maybe fill in those gaps or books. I want to see where this goes exactly with Bad Batch. So I'm excited for that. Book of Boba Fett didn't start out with the greatest episode, but it's intriguing enough, and I think we're all really excited to finally get a Boba Fett project after 6-7 years of Boba Fett project being rumored. So this is finally here, and I think it's going to continue to get better and better. But yeah, Obi-Wan, I mean, for pretty much everybody, I think this is the most exciting Star Wars project since The Force Awakens. Like this is huge. This is everybody who is our age, who are prequel fans, grew up with Obi-Wan. This is like our guy, and so we're so excited to finally see this. I've said many times Obi-Wan's my favorite character. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh
so
yeah.
hyped. I cannot wait to see this. So whenever that drops, that's going to steal this pop culture spotlight from literally anything else that's out. when it
Yeah,
comes out.
I mean, there's been an argument to say like Ewan, he's always like very respectful to Sir Alec Guinness's role. Obviously, he is the original Obi-Wan. His role, even if it is mostly cameos in 5 and 6, he's still such an integral part in the first Star Wars movie, and very much our connection to the Force and all that. But at this point, especially if this show is great, I I wouldn't be ashamed to say that he's like the better Obi-Wan. He is everything Obi-Wan embodies, and he will be a little older in the series. He will be 10 years older, so he'll be much closer to he is I believe he's very close to the age that, Alec Guinness was. It's just Alec Guinness was just a much older looking man, so it'll be interesting to see a little bit more of the older Kenobi, the stuff that hasn't really been touched by Ewan, finally be addressed and be portrayed, and at that point, I think it's gonna be really, really hard for people to be like, "Oh, yeah, I only love Alec because he's the older, wiser guy." Well, Ewan's also done that too, so, it'll be interesting. It'll be really good, and I hope
Yeah,
he becomes the transcendent Obi-Wan that he already is, but to even more so.
absolutely. And this one has such high expectations for most people that they've also got a lot of work to do to make sure it hits those expectations, because I don't think it's going to hit expectations for everybody, but really interested to see where this goes, how they work with the Darth Vader angle, how they stay true to the original book that people love so much, how they kind of stay true to what everybody has envisioned for Obi-Wan over the last 40 years. Uh, there's a lot of things that they have to hit. They're not going to hit all of them for everybody, but I think just Ewan being there is going to be enough for a lot of people. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, definitely the most exciting. I wish we knew the dates for all these things, because we could say, yeah, we count down to one of these things, but heavily rumored Obi-Wan's coming out May the 4th. It is the next show that is going to be coming out. Despite how long Andor's been in production, Obi-Wan is going to be coming out next. So we're looking forward to all these series, because it's crazy. We're going to have four, possibly five Star Wars series in 1 year. That's nuts. And four of them are going to be live action. That's just crazy. Never would have thought of that would be a thing. So let's move on to books, because that's probably the second most hyped category currently with what's going to be coming out in 2022. We have Phase 1 of the High Republic wrapping up finally in January, February, and March, as we get The High Republic, The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray, January 4th, next week. So this is going to be really exciting. If you watched our video, you know we both really loved Light of the Jedi and The Rising Storm. So this is going to be something we're going to really be excited to dive into. Then we have The High Republic Midnight Horizon, February 1st, which will be the last young adult book in Phase 1 of The High Republic. And then Mission to Disaster, March 1st, which will be the last middle grade book that will be coming out in The High Republic. We also have the script for Tempest Runner. If you haven't yet listened to the audio drama, that will be coming out March 1st. You can get the Tempest Runner script book, kind of like they did for Dooku Jedi Lost, and read that. We also have the script for Dr. Aphra on March 29th. I did not listen to that one because I heard it's just an adaptation of the comics, which I've already read, so that'll be lower on my list. Maybe I'll read it when the script comes out. And then I had no idea this got pushed back. A Queen's Hope got pushed back to April 5th. That was supposed to come out in November. I thought it came out. I have not read the Padme books. I haven't been too intrigued to read the Padme books. Maybe I'll set a new goal for myself to read them by April 5th so I can get Queen's Hope. But I had no idea this got pushed back. So that is coming out April 5th. And then the stories that we've talked about in a video in the past when they made a big announcement, which books were coming out this summer, kind of in place of how the High Republic came out last year. We have Star Wars Brotherhood, which is about Obi-Wan and Anakin between episode 1 and 2. That is coming out May 10th. Or is it Clone Wars? That's the Canon and Moidia stuff.
It's the beginning of Clone Wars, yeah.
Yeah, Canon and Moidia stuff. May 10th is that book. We have Stories of Jedi and Sith, which is a collection of short stories about the Jedi and Sith, coming out June 7th. It has a ton of authors on it if you want to look that up. It's got a lot of the biggest authors right now in Star Wars. We have an untitled book about the video game Star Wars Hunters, and it's a middle grade book coming out June 7th. Also, no idea what that is. I'd like to play the game first before I get excited about a book. And then Shadow of the Sith, the one everybody's excited for, about Luke and Lando learning about some stuff with Exegol. It's going to have Ochi Bastoon in it. That's going to be a really exciting book. I think that'll be the biggest book of the summer for Star Wars. That is coming out June 28th in that High Republic Rising Storm date that came out last year. And then we have Padawan, which is a young adult book about Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Padawan that is coming out July 26th. Maybe it coincides with the end of the Obi-Wan show. Who knows? There's a lot of Obi-Wan stuff coming out throughout the summer. There is, I didn't put these on here, but there's a lot of little kids books like the Buryaga books coming out for Obi-Wan. Some things about be like Obi-Wan, stuff like that are coming out throughout the summer. So it seems more likely that the Obi-Wan show is coming out in the summer more than ever. But yeah, those are the books we know about currently. We're waiting to hear about phase 2 of the High Republic, waiting to hear what those dates might be and which of the books are coming out. We do have a big High Republic Day announcement. I think, is it next week or the week after? They're doing a big video announcement for phase 2, I believe. So we'll probably be covering that. But yeah, right now, as of December 31st, this is all we know that's coming. And these will be the end of the High Republic phase 1 and kind of the next phase of big Star Wars novels that are coming out. So, anyways, Sanak, which ones are you most excited for here?
I mean, that's tough because we've been, especially on this channel, very focused on High Republic. So I, I want to immediately say Fallen Star, especially since Claudia Gray is helming it. Like, I mean, she's the best Star Wars writer out there, maybe in all of history at this point, just with the quality and the consistency and the variety, if you account for all of that. So she's up there, and that would be a fantastic, hopefully, a fantastic book to end this long. I mean, it's only been a year, but it's been a long phase. Like for books, this is a very detailed, very intertwined thing with this comics and every level of books. And yeah, I'm excited for Fallen Star, especially. I think Fallen Star could be one of those books that, while Light of the Jedi was, if you want to say it's like the A New Hope, and then the Rising Storm is like the Empire Strikes Back. Maybe this is like the Return of the Jedi. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Return of the Jedi, I think this might have the same effect where it could be really great and all that, but maybe it just comes a little short at some elements because you're trying to wrap up the phase instead of just tell the story. That being said, I trust Claudia Gray, so I'm hoping it's more of like an episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where it's spectacular in every single way, but still dark and damning and very messed up in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't mind if this is like a very messy, intertwining book at points, as long as it lands it sticks its landing. So that would be probably the book I'm most interested in. But then again, there is the stuff with Queen's Hope that is actually like I've read Queen's Peril before I read Queen's Shadow, because Queen's Peril I thought was a much better read so far than what I've gotten in Queen's Shadow, because a lot of it is right after Padme is elected, right? How does she first bring in her handmaidens? What is her relationship to the planet? What are the economic realities and all these different things? Like, probably some of the best stuff about her that felt very grounded and realistic about her as a queen, while also still letting her be a young woman and really like exploring that facet. I like I like the second book more than the first one, and I ended up dropping the first book because by then High Republic stuff was out, and I was like, this is just vastly more entertaining to me. So maybe I'll pick up that book and Queen Shadow and run it into Queen's Hope, because my thinking is, with it being delayed and only a month away from Brotherhood, there could be some interesting synergy there, especially since this will deal with a lot of her early marriage with Anakin, her time as a senator after the Clone Wars has started, and Brotherhood is going to take off with Kata Nemoida. It's going to take off with Anakin and Obi-Wan both being Jedi Knights now, and how that relationship goes from like father, son, master, and Padawan to like equals. So I think there is going to be some very interesting synergy. I would not be surprised if there's like a chapter or two that's kind of shared between these books. So that actually does interest me quite a bit, because then that'll obviously just make me even more hyped, because the big three of those films are then leading into the last one remaining, essentially the last good one remaining in the Kenobi show, and we'll see Hayden hopefully in flashbacks. It would be my dream to see somehow Natalie Portman back as like Padme for just like a quick, nice flashback, like a little Coruscant chase or something. Like she's involved nearby, and all three of them are together. We didn't really get the big three of the original trilogy together, and unfortunately, Carrie Fisher's gone now. And it's been a long time since we've had the big three of the prequels, and you can argue that Revenge of the Sith's biggest weakness is making Padme just a pregnant woman and fridging her off. Just she's just there. Whereas in some of the deleted scenes, she's actually part of that early rebellion, working politically against Palpatine, trying her best to preserve whatever she can before it all crumbles away. So it'd be interesting to see a little bit more of just the big three in their primes together. So that would interest me. Padawan interests me just because Kenobi content, but if I have to go with anything, it's going to be Fallen Star and hopefully the synergy between Queen's Hope and Brotherhood.
Yeah, I would say Fallen Star for me right now, especially with it being a week away, is like that's the tip of the top. Very, very excited for that, especially because it's Claudia Gray writing as well. Like if it was somebody else, maybe little bit less excitement, but Claudia Gray finishing off a great start to a trilogy. I mean, this is looking like it's going to be really, really epic. I can't wait to see what they do with this. And really, in the rest of the High Republic stuff, Midnight Horizon, I think I would have been a little less excited for that previously until I read Trail of Shadows, because Daniel Jose Older is writing this one. Trail of Shadows has been so good, and I've enjoyed Adventures, and Adventures has been progressively better throughout the year. Like it keeps getting better and better, and I think he does a good job writing that type of style, writing that type of comedy. But comedy in Star Wars is not my favorite thing, so I think if I would have judged his work based on that for Midnight Horizon, I think I would be a little less excited for it. But now, having read Trail of Shadows, he can do serious, he can do stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to Midnight Horizon a lot more than when it was announced. Mission to Disaster, I'm also looking forward to because it's Justina Ireland and she wrote Test of Courage, which is my favorite middle grade book. So I think all three of these are going to be really exciting. The like you said, Brotherhood and Padawan, anything with Obi-Wan in it, I'm excited for. It's going to be nice to have an Obi-Wan and Anakin book. It's our first one since Canon started. So that's going to be really cool to see. And we're going to get the Caden Nemoidia stuff, which is going to be really awesome. But for me, probably my second most hyped book out of all of them behind the Fallen Star is Shadow of the Sith. I'm just really excited to see how this Exegol stuff continues to be fleshed out. I want to see more of that, and I want to see Luke post Return of the Jedi so much more. Like I rewatched the Mandalorian finale, and my God, yeah, Luke. There's so many exciting things we can do with Luke in this 30-year gap that we haven't touched on yet. So I'm excited to get started on that stuff, start to see where Luke is going, and start to see more of this stuff with Exegol.
Did we not mention Shadow of the Sith? I totally glanced over that. I totally forgot
Yeah, June
that's the
28th.
Luke content stuff,
Yeah.
right? And Lando's gonna have a good stuff. Maybe I think it's explicitly says that his daughter is also gone, so we're actually gonna see that search towards Exegol and the debt.
Yeah.
Ooh,
June
that might actually,
28th, that one.
yeah. I totally blanked on it because when you said Shadow of the Sith, I'm like, it must be some like book, like encyclopedia, like book about like some like
Yeah.
old. But no, that's the first real post Return of the Jedi, post Mandalorian actually too. So maybe there's some tie-ins there with Grogu, little hints there of what the fate of the Mandoverse is. That might be. I won't put that above Fallen Star just because Fallen Star, like you said, it's literally in a week and
Yeah, and
less than a week, and
it's earned that kind of
it's
hype
earned that.
over the last year
Right. And
too.
it's exactly at the 1 year mark because Light of the Jedi was literally on the 4th as well. So still there. But if I'm going to play something above Brotherhood and Queen's Hope, yeah, right. Very closely on the tails of Fallen Star. Ooh, Shadows of Sith. I just didn't register. I'm like, it kind of seems familiar. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wait. Yeah.
Pretty standard title, not like
Yeah.
super unique title. But
Yeah.
yeah, all these books are looking really, really promising. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting and diverse year for Star Wars books. This year had a lot of different type of content, but was still very High Republic. Was like the main stuff that drove it. We finished off Alphabet Squadron, we finished off Thrawn Ascendancy, but those were few and far between, with High Republic dominating basically all of publishing. So not a bad thing. All of it was really good. But next year we're going to seem to have a bit more variety to the different eras and stuff we cross with Star Wars books. Last thing with books, we won't spend too much time on this, but there are 2 phases of the Essential Legends collection that were announced for this coming year. There might be one more announced eventually because of the dates that are on here, but we have April 5th, there's going to be the third phase. It is Darth Bane, Dynasty of Evil. So good. Love that book. But my favorite Legends book of all time, Darth Plagueis, is also coming out then. Then we have Kenobi right before the show starts. And then X-Wing Wedge's Gamble, along with an original audiobook for that by Mark Thompson. Yeah, all those will be great. We've talked about those in past episodes. I mean, it's the cream of the crop for Legends there. Like, this Essential Legends collection has published all the great stuff. And then on August 2nd, we have the next three in the Essential Legends collection, which are Darth Maul Shadowhunter, Death Troopers, and X-Wing Kratos Trap. So I believe that's the third X-Wing book. That'll be interesting because all the other books, Kenobi, Bane, Dynasty of Evil, Darth Plagueis, and pretty much every other book they've released in Essential Legends collection have had full unabridged audiobooks previously before their releases on this. That's why they've done the audiobooks for the two X-Wing books, which didn't. All three of these books, Darth Maul, Death Troopers, and the Kratos Trap, none of those have unabridged audiobooks. So it'll be interesting to see if they do them for all three. I think they'll definitely do the X-Wing because they've done it for the other two. But yeah, we're continuing to push Legends content out there, which is always cool. Any thoughts on those before we move on to comics?
Legends is a little bit more of a trickier thing for me because a lot of the stuff that is in the Essential Legends collection coming out right now, I haven't ever really touched. I only maybe read like one X-Wing book growing up at best. I read parts of Plagueis and never finished it. And I read the first Darth Bane book, but I never got past that. So I don't really know. I know the story. I've obviously Wikipedia researched, the classic like 10-year-old me just browsing through article after article about character history and books and all that. Um, I believe I've actually read Shadowhunter. I think I did. It was just randomly, it had such a strangely like attractive cover to me that I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna read that. And I did, and it was it's one of those books that very much felt like, okay, it's cool that we're seeing what happens just before episode one, and really does make Maul more vicious and cunning and more monstrous than even he is in the film. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I've already had my canon fill of that with the comics and some of the stuff. But obviously, I love Maul more after he's defeated and becomes more of like a Sisyphus character, always doomed to build up and always collapse at the end. Um, but I guess that's like the only one that really stands out to me because that's the one I actually ended up reading. Death Troopers obviously has a reputation of like being a very unique book, along with its like sequel, prequel, Red Harvest with zombies and viruses and all, which I guess it feels a little bit more timely these days. But it's again, I haven't read it. It always just was like one of those covers that I was like, I don't really need to read this book. It's a little too much for middle school me. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. I like that the Darth Bane stuff has been collected, especially after seeing how garbage the second book of Darth Bane's original cover was compared to the first and third. It's nice to see at least, even if you don't love the art style of these Essential Legends covers, they at least are like unique and not like a waste. At least so far, they haven't been a waste. Um, Plagueis, I mean, Plagueis is it's got a reputation. It's I know it's one of Liam's favorite books of all time, not just Star Wars books. So yeah, pretty strong selection. That not necessarily a collection that I'm touching at any time soon. I'm not really a collector in the way that you are, Liam, but it's nice to see that like Legends is still getting like a lot of like reprints. It's getting a little love and attention, and even if some of it does feel like they're trying to make everything kind of feel and look the same cover wise, there's still like a space on the cover where artists can just have fun. So I think that's pretty nice, especially as a collector, to have correct binding that doesn't change like between every book, especially in like a trilogy. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm glad they keep going. It's gonna be interesting to see where they stop. Like, what do they not consider essential? I would assume a lot of the '90s books post Heir to the Empire trilogy. But yeah, I'm really excited to see if there's audiobooks for those last three, because those don't have unabridged, so that would be cool. So moving on to comics. Comics, we really only know what's coming out in the first half of the year. Kind of like the rest of the stuff, but still, comics, we still have the 6 ongoings that will continue. We don't know when High Republic Adventures will end, but it does have at least 2 or 3 more issues coming in this year. So we have Star Wars from 2020 by Charles Soule, that is continuing. Darth Vader from 2020 by Greg Pak is continuing. Dr. Aphra Volume 2 2020 is continuing. Bounty Hunters 2020 is continuing. The High Republic from Marvel is continuing. High Republic Adventures is continuing. So we're not going to give you the dates when all those issues are coming out, but those will be continuing monthly as we've gotten. And then we have the High Republic Trail of Shadows, number 4 and 5 are coming out this year. Number 4 is coming out January 26th. And then the last one, I believe, is coming out at the end of February. Then we have the High Republic Eye of the Storm 2-issue series that is coming from Charles Soule about the origins of Marchion Ro. That is starting January 12th, the week after the High Republic Fallen Star comes out. So that will be a 2-issue series coming out in January and February. Then we have the High Republic Adventures Galactic Bake Off Spectacular number 1 one-shot January 19th. I mean, could be fun. Could be. Daniel Jose Older is writing it, so it's going to have that charm to it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Crimson Reign has been pushed back to February 2nd for issue number 2, which is the week before Boba Fett ends. I don't know if you want to read into that at all. But issue number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are coming out in 2022. The Halcyon Legacy is coming out on February 2nd, number 1. It is a 5-issue miniseries about the Halcyon Legacy Galactic Star Cruiser, which is the name of the ship that you are staying in the Star Wars Hotel in Disney World. It centers around Buryaga, I believe. And yeah, it takes place in the High Republic timeline, even though the hotel, I believe, takes place in the sequel timeline. I don't know. It could be interesting. I think right now it looks better than the hotel looks, but we'll see. And then the last thing we have to talk about is the new Han Solo and Chewbacca ongoing series, which is starting March 9th. We don't know how many issues that will be, but most Star Wars ongoings aren't really ongoings. They end at around 25. So we'll see how long that goes, but we probably can guarantee about at least a year to 2 years of Han Solo and Chewbacca coming out. So all of those comics coming out. There's not too many new things that we didn't know about already. But any thoughts on what you're most excited for here of this group?
What I'm most excited for is hopefully a return to Darth Vader lines, like strong storytelling of its first 2 arcs. Because man, it's just been treading water for so long. Even though it has like no reason to at this point. It's not like tied into War of the Bounty Hunters. It's kind of, tied into Crimson Reign, but every series, Afra, Star Wars, even Bounty Hunters now has managed to like have its own story. Even if it is slightly connected to something else, it is still telling a story. Vader is just so confusing right now. I don't even really know what's going on. It's just we started off this whole arc with like there's these Ochi's assassins, and then there's these like Ravagers, and they're like all teaming up together, and it's Crimson Reign, Crimson Dawn stuff, but we don't know specifically. And then they go into a cave at the end of the last one, and they're like, "Oh, now we know just how deep it goes." I'm like, "All right, well, you kind of already knew this, all right?" I don't know. It's a mess right now. So hopefully, that's what I'm looking forward to. Seeing it, in 3 months on one of our comic views, saying like, "Hey, this was a great episode of Darth Vader again." Strong run these last few weeks. Like that's what I'm hoping to say. So I'm praying for that one. I really am. In terms of just content, it's got to be Trail of Shadows for me. The first 3 have been knockouts. Even the third one, even if it's slower, I've been so hooked that even though there's not much plot to it, there's just good small details that like even something like the High Republic Adventures, which Older has been involved with and kind of touching in here and there base wise, he's clearly bringing in some of those elements of like taking care of the small things for the big things to happen, and that's happening here in Trail of Shadows in that third issue. So I'm hoping now that the plot hopefully is kicked back into gear, right? They're back. They're going to the Starlight Beacon. Something big's happened there, right? There's an attack. Is that Fallen Star related? It'd be very interesting to see these characters in the books too, especially with just how much they've grown and with such limited appearances compared to other High Republic characters. Um, I have the Storm. It's exciting, if just short. I want 5. Like, I feel like for Martian, 4 or 5 comics would have been perfect. For Kylo Ren, that's just not enough, but it was still good. But I think for the Eye of the Storm, if you gave me 4, I would have been so pleased. 2, jumbo sized or not, I don't know how much you can really do and pace well. I don't know what your structure is going to be like. It's going to be tough. Galactic Bake Off, man. Let's just say I'll be baked too if I'm reading that. I'm just gonna just yeah. I don't know what to say. The whole like Rumble race that was happening in the comics, where like Ram Demorum and all these Cadawans are just like, yeah, we can race through Starlight Beacon and eventually lose to buckets of blood. I guess I thought that was the max of like the silliness that we're getting with Master Cantum, who is Yoda's Padawan. Let's be clear, he is like a character who every other Yoda Padawan so far in history has been very powerful, galaxy changing. And this dude's biggest claim to fame is to talk a few words in these comics, set up this race, and now bake. I really hope they do something with his character. Hopefully in Phase 2 at least. Because we also just haven't seen a lot of the Jedi Council. Like, we've seen their names, but we haven't really. I feel like at this point, with how things have just gone south, you'd hear more council, rumblings and action being taken, but it's mostly been political or just spokespeople or just people fighting and rushing into battles. So those two, the Eye of the Storm, Galactic Bake Off, we'll see. A lot of we'll sees there. I'm not really, holding my breath for either one of those to be spectacular in any way, even though one of them has spectacular in the name. Um, Crimson Reign, obviously, I'm excited because I'd like to see really what that miniseries is like. Because the War of the Bounty Hunters, even if you didn't like how the main lines were like severely hampered and everyone was in one location, um, Crimson Reign seems like it'll tell its own story while affecting the other lines, which I think is a far more sensible approach. We'll see some stuff with Deathstick, maybe that will lead her into the Star Wars Uprising story eventually, which again, Lucasfilm, LucasArts, Lucasbooks, please adapt that game into a book. There's so much potential for Lando, and that's a big story there. And the politics of it that are hinted in the concept art and all that, please do something there. But it'll be nice to see at least that stick be developed beforehand and a little bit more of like Kira's goals and all that. Halcyon Legacy, I'm not excited for. I know there's gonna be High Republic eras. I know they're gonna be more modern original trilogy eras and all that. Doesn't matter to me. I think mainly because just everything from Galactic Star Cruiser so far has just inspired zero faith, and that'll be good. Bob Chapek, please. The one good thing about Disney that's been consistent throughout its histories has been the parks. Even if it's had its ups and downs, even with Iger, it was still not this garbage looking. Like, this is 6 years of development. Yeah, it looks like there's more effort on this comic books than there is for the actual hotel, which is disappointing. So yeah, but I will say I am gonna miss High Republic Adventures. I do think it's gonna end at issue 15. I know Dark Horse is supposed to start doing comics, but we don't really know any Dark Horse comics yet. So it'll be very interesting to see like if they're gonna do a lot of like the IDW like adventures lines anymore, or if they're actually gonna do some very complimentary stories, like maybe adapting unfinished arcs from Clone Wars, like they did it with Son of Son of Dathomir, or is it Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir? I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So I hope they do some of that stuff and some really strong arts. And their artists were really good before Dark Horse gave up the license when the Disney deal happened. Some maybe not the greatest stories, but with a little bit more supervision, I think that could be a very spectacular return. And I feel like people are missing a little bit of variety and the strangeness that Dark Horse had in their stories. So I'd love to see that be back. But more than anything, Han Solo and Chewbacca, I'm actually quite excited for that because it's set after Solo Star Wars stories, but before A New Hope. So we'll see a lot of this early relationship with Jabba's palace and Jabba with Han Solo, Chewbacca, them getting older, and especially Han becoming a little bit less naive, a little bit more dark and troubled, and a little bit more of a solo guy. Like just him and Chewie doing these very sketchy things. That means more and more that I don't think we'll see a Solo 2 or a Solo series. Hopefully, it means like Akira shows up in Book of Boba Fett, and all this Darth Maul stuff is just covered in books and stuff in the Fall of Crimson Dawn originally. But yeah, I don't know. Well, it's really hard to tell. Either way, I'm excited just to see the beginning of the classic Han Solo that we all first met. So those would be my thoughts.
I'm with you on the Han Solo and Chewbacca. I think it's exciting. I don't know. I get hesitant with new ongoings because most of the time they aren't incredible, but I think I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see where they go with this and at least give it a shot at the beginning of the year and see where it goes with this first arc. Because there are some interesting details they can fill in that. Very excited for the end of Trail of Shadows. Can't wait to see how that wraps up and how it ties into the Fallen Star and all that. High Republic consistently very good, so looking forward to continuing to read that. Star Wars as well by Charles Soule. I really want to see what happens to Luke and Vader before Return of the Jedi. Crimson Reign, I'm looking forward to it. I think the main event, tie-ins less so, but the main event, I think I'm invested enough in this War of the Bounty Hunters storyline to be following it, and am surprised they pushed it back. So the first issue was pushed back like 2 months to December, and now the second issue is pushed back to February 2nd. So it's interesting the way it's spread out, but that could be good. Eye of the Storm. I'm very excited for Eye of the Storm, but I'm cautiously excited because, like you said, I wanted more from the Rise of Kylo Ren. So because that was also Charles Soule, I'm worried this is going to be rushed kind of like that was. I think he did the best he could with the format he was given, but I think it needed to be at least 5 issues, maybe 6. This for 2, I don't know how many crazy details we're going to get, but if they're 60 pages each or 50 pages each, that's like 4 issues. So I'm just don't know why they're deciding to do it in this format. Maybe they're trying to get something out before Midnight Horizon and then something out right after. Who knows? But yeah, the comics, I think I'm not like overwhelmingly excited for any of this stuff. I think Trail of Shadows I'm the most excited for, but that's already laid the foundation. So for any of the new stuff, I don't know if there's anything that's making me go like, yeah, I can't wait to read that day one. But there's a good quality and variety here of Star Wars comics, which I would say, even if 2020 didn't have the greatest comics ever, we established that variety leading into 2021 that kind of continued and will now continue into 22, where we've got all these different eras where, like, when Star Wars comics initially started, even though like that first year, that 2015 of Star Wars comics was probably the best year we've still had if you're just going to take accumulation of a year, it was all centered around the exact same timeline. So it wasn't a interesting variety of stories. At least every week we can jump into a new era of Star Wars in comics. So I'm looking forward to that continuing. But on the Legends end, we've got the collected editions, the comics that are collected into paperback or hardcover. I'm not going to list here volume 4 of Star Wars and volume 5 of Star Wars, because those are coming out. Like, those are obvious. They come out right after the arc finishes. So I won't be listing any of that, but this is mostly all Legends stuff. And we're starting here with one of my favorite things, the Omnibus. We've got the Rise of the Sith Omnibus. This one was announced a while ago. It was supposed to come out, I believe, in September, and has now gotten pushed back to February 8th. Again, with collected editions, the whole Marvel transition to Penguin Random House Publishing instead of Diamond, who used to distribute everybody's comics, and then DC left for DCBS, and there's been a whole upending of the comic industry and the comic distribution industry since the pandemic started. And so these things are constantly in flux. So take these dates with a grain of salt, because these things have already been pushed back like 6 months since they were originally announced to be coming out. But currently, right now, the Rise of the Sith Omnibus is coming out February 8th. I believe that is all stuff, like a bunch of stories that take place before Phantom Menace. It's a bunch of miniseries. There was a Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, a bunch of different miniseries that featured them. I read those as a kid. There's a bunch of stuff in this. I'm going to be picking this up. And then we have the Star Wars Legacy Volume 4 Epic Collection. This is going to be touching the Legacy 2 parts of Star Wars Legacy, which will be cool. I already own all those in paperbacks. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this one, but yeah, that one should be good. And this is the one that I think most people are probably really hyped for, the Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen and Salvador Larroca omnibus reprint. If you following the omnibus game like I do, this one has been selling on eBay for consistently between $250 and $500 for like the last 3 years. So this is being reprinted is a big deal. Pick it up before it goes out of print, and then you have to pay $250 for it again. Star Wars by Jason Aaron omnibus reprint. This is a really good run. Pick it up if you are interested in getting into Star Wars comics. It's a good gateway into Star Wars comics. It does tail off a bit at the end, but it's solid. I know this is the one Sanak is most excited for. The Tales of the Jedi Epic Collection, Volume 2. This will be going into the Queldroma stuff, the actual Tales of the Jedi series. Volume 1 focused on the Dawn of the Jedi stuff. But because they're basically titling Tales of the Jedi is going to be the title of everything that takes place pre-Old Republic in the Star Wars Legacy or in the Star Wars Epic Collections. So that is coming out on May 3rd. May 3rd, we're also getting the Empire Omnibus, which is really there is a series called the Empire, but this is really just like a random collection of a ton of stuff from that same era. The High Republic, The Edge of Balance is the only canon one we're talking about. Gets a physical release May 24th, so that will be the physical release for the High Republic Edge of Balance Volume 2. Looking forward to that. That is a manga if you didn't read Volume 1. We have the Clone Wars Epic Collection Volume 4. The Clone Wars Epic Collections have been really good, so those you'll want to check that out on May 31st. The Empire Epic Collection Volume 7, July 12th. I'm probably going to stop buying these because the omnibuses are now coming out for them, so not going to double dip twice, but yeah, Volume 7 of Empire. Again, as I said, it's a bunch of random stuff that takes place between episode 4, 5, and 6. So if you're interested in that, pick that up. The last two, the New Republic Omnibus Volume 1, I think that one's going to be pretty hyped because the first two volumes of the Epic Collections have been out of print for a while, and that's going to feature probably stuff, I think, from X-Wing, the X-Wing comic spin-offs, maybe the Heir to the Empire adaptations. I think those will probably all be in there. I know the Heir to the Empire adaptations Epic Collection has been out of print for a long time. That one sells for like $150, $200 on eBay. So this will be your way to get that if you want it in a collected edition. And then finally, The Menace Revealed, Volume 3. Again, stuff that takes place before Phantom Menace. Yeah, that's coming out August 2nd. So don't want to spend too much time on this category because, again, it is Legends. For me, I think all the omnibuses I will be picking up. I love that type of stuff. High Republic Edge of Balance Volume 2. Looking forward to seeing what they do with that. And then Tales of the Jedi Epic Collection Volume 2. I'm excited to get that finally in a modern paperback. So yeah, what are you looking forward to the most out of here? I know your answer already, but
Oh, clearly I'm so excited for the Empire Epic. No, yeah, obviously it's Tales of the Jedi. Just I want to get my hands on that. I do want to hold off for the omnibus, but at the same time, it's a lot harder to read omnibuses other than putting it on a table. So obviously you know that more than I do. Um, and I like being able to flip through stuff. Like I have my Calvin and Hobbes books. I still want to get the hardcover versions of those, but I know those are like table flippers instead of like I can just skim through every book if I want and just I don't really care. I'm like one of those readers where I believe the philosophy of like people like Daniel Green and other booktubers where it's like if you read a book, it doesn't matter what condition it is as long as it's readable. So it doesn't really matter in my mind. I understand people were like on preserved shells. I agree with that too, but for me it'd be like the omnibuses are the preserved ones, and then the trade paperbacks probably would be like the ones that I'm just constantly rereading and throwing around and all that. So excited for that. I didn't realize Rise of the Sith kind of covered some of the backstory in the Jedi Apprentice Young Reader series with Sanathos and Qui-Gon. So I've heard it takes a very interesting turn there. It's a little bit different, but interesting. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have any other thoughts. This is just yeah.
yeah, this was a section I put in here as kind of for my own amusement, especially because I will be collecting all of this stuff. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there who are into collected editions. So here you go. Here's your very rough preview because most likely these things that say they'll come out August 2nd will probably be March 2023 with the way these dates have been fluctuating. So who knows? Hopefully they come out. And so the final two big categories, I guess we can combine them into one. Let's just because there's very few things in both of them. Video games and theme parks. First with video games, the only officially confirmed release date for a video game thing that we have in 2022 is Star Wars The Old Republic. I believe this is the 7th or 8th expansion. It's Legacy of the Sith, February 15th that expansion is coming out for the Old Republic. So if you're still playing the Old Republic, great for you. This is coming out. And then we have Star Wars Hunters, which is definitely coming out this year. We just don't know when. And then the one we're all gonna laugh about, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I mean, it was supposed to come out 2 years ago, almost 3 years, 2.5 years ago. It's a Lego game. Again, we've talked about this so many times on the channel. No idea what's wrong with this. What is going on? I have no guesses for why this keeps getting delayed. I'm worried it's gonna just get straight up canceled, but it's supposed to come out this year. And then for the theme parks, we have Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser on March 1st. That is officially, you can book your reservations for March 1st. Initially, the first 3 months were sold out. Now, after those trailers, the first 3 months are no longer sold out. So if you do want to go and spend $5,000 to stay in the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, you can go sometime within the first 3 months. It will be open then. This is not technically theme parks, but I put it in here because it's like a Star Wars event. Star Wars Celebration is happening this year in Anaheim. That will be happening May 26th to 29th. Let us know if you're going to that. And then Hyperspace Lounge, which is a Disney Cruise Line Star Wars experience, is coming in 2022, rumored to be the summer, on one of the new Disney cruise lines. I know they have a bunch of ships that they've been working on. I don't know which ship this is. I'm not very familiar with the Disney cruise line. I've never been. If you've been, let me know if it's great. I'd really like to go one day, but I don't know. I'll stick to the parks for now. When it comes to theme parks, I don't think I'm going to be doing any of this stuff. Galactic Star Cruiser is way out of my price range and just hasn't looked that good. So I'll probably not be doing that. Hyperspace Lounge, I don't plan on going on a cruise this year. Video games. I mean, I'd like to get back in the Old Republic eventually, but yeah, I probably won't be checking that out. And Hunters, I don't know. There's nothing too exciting here. Lego Star Wars would be the thing I'm most excited for, but at this point, I've just kind of put it in my back of my mind that this is never happening. But yeah, what are your most anticipated things here from these two categories?
I'm just kind of interested in seeing some footage and gameplay of the finalized eighth expansion, Legacy of the Sith for Star Wars: The Old Republic. Darth Malchus is once again the villain, so I'm very curious to see why this dude won't die and what his role is in the story. Because from what I can tell, and I haven't kept up with the Old Republic story that much anymore, but it went from a Cold War into an all-out war to a Cold War between the Republic and the Sith Empire, and then that all started falling apart, and then suddenly there's the Internal Empire, which is connected to Emperor Vitiate because he has another body on this other planet that I don't know. It's a weird story, but then that's all canceled out essentially, and now they're back to fighting each other instead of being unified. Um, but level cap is up. Manan is being brought back into KOTOR verse canon, so be interesting to see how a modern day version of that looks like. Um, I heard there's like a lot of changes made to like skill trees and abilities and all that, so the gameplay's been revamped to like modern MMO standards. So I'm curious just to see how people like it. Obviously, we want so badly to stream Lego Star Wars for you guys because I mean that's the childhood game and it's supposed to be all nine. It's Complete Saga was a long time ago now, 2007 or something, right? So, sheesh, it's been 14 years and it'll be 15 by this rate if we don't get the game. I don't think it's canceled. I just think at this point they're just dragging their feet out and they're like, where do we put this? Maybe, hopefully, it comes around May. That'd be a perfect thing to pair with Kenobi. That'd be the perfect like nostalgia bait combined with new content. Um, but it was supposed to come out as the tail end of you know the sequel trilogy. Like, the first Lego Star Wars came out before, Episode 3 came out. So that was like that made people rush to see like, oh, what's in the story and all that. Obviously, it was a little different, intentionally so, but it was still like a good idea of like what's going to go on as a whole, right? And now we're like approaching 2.5 years without any sequel content, and this is supposed to be our next sequel content, which is just adaptation of sorts. Yeah, so And I'm not really at theme parks, guys, so I'm not really worried. I do want to go to Celebration one day. I really do. Just I got classes. It's gonna be tough for me, even if it is in Anaheim, just to pull that off. And COVID, I'm not trusting. I'm hoping by May everything is much better and that we can do all these fun things. But I would like to go to a celebration that's not affected by COVID in a way, instead of like these events that are like half there, half not there. Um, yeah, we'll see. Star Cruiser, never gonna go on that. I don't think even if it is good, I'll ever go. Just so expensive. And I'm interested to check out Hunters, but I'm kind of burnt out from mobile Star Wars games. They've just been there. They haven't really been anything foundational or groundbreaking to me. And they're not supposed to be, but they shouldn't also feel like really cheap microtransaction cash grabs all the time. I don't know. We'll see. This game definitely looks better than most mobile Star Wars games under Disney, but I don't know if that really means much.
Yeah, I think the reason I put these last, I think video games normally, in terms of most people's excitement, I would probably put second after the series, but there's nothing coming this year that very many people are excited for. I know those hardcore Old Republic fans are probably excited for Legacy of the Sith. I haven't played Old Republic in years, so yeah, it's not for me. Hunters, I'm not a big multiplayer guy, so anything multiplayer, if it's just a multiplayer online shooter, it's not going to really excite me, but I would be interested in checking it out. And then Skywalker Saga, yeah, like I said, it's in my mind that I'm never going to see that. Maybe one day. I really am looking forward to seeing images of the Galactic Star Cruiser, though. Like, I really want to see what it looks like. Let me see the lobby. Let me see the rooms. Let me see like what things look like. I know, like, I still got like that sliver of optimism that I'm just hoping they just haven't shown us the good stuff because it might not be done yet. I don't know. It's probably misplaced optimism. But yeah, that is 2022 in Star Wars. And those are everything that we know is coming out. We obviously have like Star Wars Eclipse that we didn't put on here because that is most definitely not going to be a 2022 game. We also have Jedi Fallen Order 2 we don't know what's coming out with that. We have all the other Disney Plus shows that are not coming out this year. There's a ton of stuff still announced that's not coming this year. But this is everything that is supposed to be in 2022 that we know of now. Like I said, High Republic, there is going to be a phase 2 announcement thing, I believe either next week or the week after. I think it's the week after. We will be talking about that, so that will already add on top of this. So this is not everything. This is mainly the first half of the year, but we hope you guys found this interesting and entertaining to see what's coming for the rest of the year. So thank you so much for watching. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel for a ton of Star Wars content as we get through the Book of Boba Fett. Comment below, let us know what you're most excited for 2022 that has been announced so far. If you haven't checked out Monday's top 5 Star Wars stories of 2021, you're going to want to check that out. We both count down our top 5 favorite Star Wars things that came out in 2021. You also want to check out our review of the Book of Boba Fett, which came out on Wednesday morning. We also released Wednesday night our newest comic book reviews. That was on Bounty Hunters number 19. And then yesterday we released a predictions and speculation for the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 2. All that stuff's up on the channel. You're going to want to check out all of that on our channel. And then stay tuned next week. We will have a special on Monday from Sanak. And then we will have a Book of Boba Fett review again Wednesday, more speculation and comic reviews again. So a lot of stuff coming up on Star Wars Lads over these next 6 weeks as we continue with the Book of Boba Fett. And we will see you guys all on Monday for our next special. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.